Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 28th of June. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Johnny McFarlane. How are we getting on, Johnny?
Good, Derek. I mean, I don't know what it's like down your way, but this is like day 70 of this spring-summer where we've had just absolutely diabolical, cold, grey skies, drizzle. Glasgow in the summer, it's getting worse. Honestly, depressing.
It's a typical Scottish summer. I enjoyed the Rangers tweet yesterday when Connor Goldson turned up for training and he was joking about it. It's just, it is what it is, unfortunately, up in Scotland, in the west of Scotland. Down in Warrington.
Rubbing it in.
Yeah, that's all we need, yeah. Although it's the winter time over there in Australia, but I'm sure I'd quite happily take the Australian winter over the Scottish summer any day. It's we're short-changed. Down here in Warrington, it's grey skies, but the sun trying to push through, but it's slightly better than what it's like up there in Glasgow. But people are tuning in, Johnny, to talk all things Rangers, of course. Just a bit of housekeeping as ever. The ticker below, we've got that great offer on the website. If you subscribe now, folks, you get a free 30-day trial, you get full access, and then it's £2.99 per month thereafter. It really is a sensational offer we've got on just now. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And as you can see, the One Football app is our sponsor. It is your one-stop shop for all your footballing needs. It's got a wealth of information on there on Rangers, great insight, loads of Rangers Review articles as well, so you can keep up to date with all the latest goings on from Ibrox, and also keep abreast of all the events taking place in Scottish football. There's fixture lists on there. There's also notifications to your phone if anything breaks with regards to Rangers. You can keep up to date with all that's going on down south as well in the Premier League, Championship, League One and League Two, and in the continent, of course, the Champions League, Europa League and the Conference League. And the good news is it is absolutely free, so it won't cost you a penny, and it's available for iPhone and Android users. Okay, let's talk Rangers then, Johnny. Lots of comments coming in already. I just wanted to touch on, we're in the midst of the transfer window, of course. Antonio Kolak is a player that has been heavily linked in recent days. Apparently, the news yesterday is that he's attracted to a move to Rangers. I think we all knew that, but PAOK, the Greek side who he's contracted to, looking for at least £2.6 million if he is to leave the Greek side. Value for money? Would you pay that if that's what you take?
I'd be surprised if Rangers pay that for a guy who's 28, who is coming towards a stage of his career where there's very little resale value. I think that there'll be a coming together with the clubs over a more acceptable fee. But it's clear, I know that there's been a lot of transfer speculation around this one, but Rangers are interested in the player. When he was first mentioned, Derek, I wasn't too sure. I thought he was good against Malmo, but I'm always reticent to judge a player based on how they've performed over a couple of games in Europe. That's happened a few times, and it's then subsequently the deal hasn't necessarily worked out. It did work out with Borna Barisic, to be fair. But he's a guy who, when you look at his data, and we've done this on the website, if you look at his goal-scoring records, it's actually pretty impressive in a lot of ways. Now, PAOK and Greek football hasn't worked out for him. There's just no doubt about that. He's got 3 or 4 goals in total for the Greeks, and they are one of the better sides in the Greek Championship. I think they were second last year, certainly in and around the top. But for whatever reason, it hasn't hit the heights of his previous moves. And he went to Malmo, and Rangers saw firsthand what he did there. He got 19 and 40, plus a few assists, so 1 in every 2. When he played for Rijeka, he was a 1 in every 2 guy. So he smashed it in the Croatian league, he smashed it in Sweden, and he struggled in Greece. So make of that what you will. He's a big physical guy, but he's not immobile. He's actually, he can move. He can he's not one of these guys that you just want to shell the ball up to. He's not a huge, big sort of Jan Koller type target man.
Yeah,
but what he does have is he can take the ball down, Derek, and he can lead the line, and he can actually even look for sort of balls in behind because he's reasonably quick for a big man, and he loves to push on to the last defender. So I quite like him. He's not. I don't think he's a replacement for Alfredo Morelos. He's not that good, but I think if you could get him at a decent fee, sorry, I think he'd be one worth pursuing. What do you think?
Yeah, listen, I think a lot of supporters will remember his performance at Ibrox. I thought he looked good, but you can't base it on that one display, of course. I'd be tempted. I've already went on record in saying Rangers, I think, need two forward players, a goal scorer, an out-and-out goal scorer, someone that's going to bag you 20 goals a season. They've not had that for so long, Johnny. I can't remember the last time they had someone that rattled in 20 goals a season. I'm not too sure if this boy will be able to do that, but he certainly knows where the back of the net is, and you've got to trust the recruitment team to have done their due diligence if he is a man that they want to bring in. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Listen, strikers are going to cost an arm and a leg if you're going to bring them in. They're going to cost big money. We all know about the Alfredo Morelos rumours just now. If he was to leave, Johnny, do you think? I know you said he's not an out-and-out Morelos replacement. I think Rangers are going to struggle to find a sort of like-for-like replacement for Morelos. He's one of a kind, isn't he? So it's going to be difficult. But should money come in, serious money, then you'd imagine a lot of that will be recycled and used on someone else. But like you, £2.6 million is what's reportedly the fee that they're looking for. It's a fair chunk of cash for Rangers at, like you say, 28 years of age. He's been around the block. I'm not too sure if that can be spent elsewhere, but like I say, I've only really watched him at Ibrox for Malmo in that Champions League qualifier. Like you say, in Greece he's not done the business. He did well in Sweden, and it remains to be seen. I think.
The other thing, obviously, Derek, the fact that he's got 3 caps for Croatia, that speaks to a level of quality. You just don't get capped by Croatia unless you've got something about you. And I mean, in terms of the fee, the one thing that was just jump out to me, if you're talking about 2.6 million quid over 3 years, within a year, you've lost pretty much half your money because 29 heading towards 30. You know what it's like. You know how the transfer market works. So what Rangers would be doing with this guy is going out and buying a guy who is the finished article for them. Now, do I think he's a finished article in a sense of, a top Rangers player? Not necessarily, but I do. Everything that I've seen makes me think he could do a job as a target man.
Yeah.
The only concern I have, Derek, around them is this, which is sometimes if you go to foreign leagues for a target man and they're impressive physically in foreign leagues, they come to Scotland and it's a completely different world. For example, Lalo Herrera, who came from Mexico, was considered a target man in Mexico. And, he wasn't able to keep up with the pace or the sort of hustle bustle of the Scottish game. So I think you have to be careful with that. What I would say about this guy, I think he's more of a scrapper. And the Swedish league is not exactly soft. It's not all technical football there. There's a bit of hustle bustle. There's a bit of rough and tumble.
Yeah.
So there's enough there, I think, to suggest that he could come in and be a decent player. I would still like to see another player come in that's like we discussed earlier on in the transfer window when we were playing our fantasy football game. We were saying Bas Dost, 33 years old, scores goals for fun everywhere he's been, available on a free transfer. I'd love to see someone like that come in. Now, you've got Alfredo Morelos there, who I don't think anyone wants to leave. If Kolak came in, that would be another guy who's capable of holding the ball up. And then you would have someone, if you went for a third choice, being someone who could put the ball in the back of the net. I think that would be perfect. But that would leave a question mark about Kemar Roofe, wouldn't it, if Morelos was persuaded to stay?
Yeah.
I don't know what the situation is long term with Kemar Roofe. I wouldn't be surprised if the club were interested in discussing his future if there was any takers. But as good a player as he is, with his injury records, would that interest manifest itself? I don't think Kemar Roofe is the club's number one striker by any means when Alfredo Morelos is fit. So if you look at the Colombian over the course of his career, he's hardly ever been injured. I know he's just had a serious injury, but prior to that, it's just never happened. So how many games does Kemar Roofe get on your average season? So I think he's on a good salary as well. I think there's going to be a bit of movement around that striker area, Derek. There's no doubt about it to me. I know a lot of people are getting frustrated at the lack of movement so far, but there does seem to be a level of interest around this Colak deal and a level of intensity around the reports. Now, whether or not that actually translates from Rangers actively pursuing it, because I know they've got quite a few other targets. Colak is one of a few.
Yeah.
And whether or not manifests itself in more serious interest, and we'll see the player turn up, we'll find out.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments coming in, folks. Try and get to a few of them. An interesting one here by Scott Swelder. If a target man and backup for Alfie, if he stays as the remit, then Sims would not be a bad shot. Of course, Ellis Sims, it was on loan at Hearts last season. Everton striker Kenny Millers went on record and saying Rangers should get this boy in. I wouldn't be opposed to that, to be honest. He's 21 years of age, just a young lad.
I'm not a project player, though. Derek, here's one that I want to put to you here. Omar's saying, Derek, does my subscription pay for your 250 holidays? Now, listen, Omar, I was giving him stick about this yesterday. I've got to be fair on the lad. He did point out to me while I was slaughtering him about the amount of holidays that he's taken recently that I personally said to him, please, can you take all your holidays in the summer so that you're free for all the football action when it comes in, November, December, October, etc., etc. I don't have to worry about sending you going away on your trips. So he's kind of, if I don't know if this isn't probably not the right word, but he's kind of front loaded his holidays all into the summer. So I thought I'd defend you there, Derek, from accusations of being a layabout and taking loads of holidays.
Yeah, it's like the footballers when they go on holiday at the end of the season. So Johnny and Homa unhappy at my absence of late, but that's me back, folks. I won't. Well, we're going to wait to Portugal next week, of course, but purely work as we cover Rangers, and folks, you'll get all the updates from Rangers pre-season camp on the website as well. So, subscription will pay for that, but purely work related. Comment coming in here. It's an interesting one, Johnny. I wanted to touch on this because this is a player that's not necessarily been talked about, but he is available. Dwight Gale, just to flank in some other names. Would anyone take Dwight Gale or Matty Vidra? Now, Vidra is injured at the moment. He done his knee, I'm sure. He's out until November time, but he's a player that has been linked in the past with Rangers when Gerrard was the manager. I think it was a couple of years ago now. But Dwight Gale is a player I've always liked. He knows where the back of the net is. Never quite done it in the top flight in England, but in the Championship, he's a goal machine. And I think he's available for next to nothing. I'm not too sure if his contract.
He's still got 2 years left in his contract.
Oh, Dwight Gale has?
Yeah, 2 years left in his contract. But I mean, he's not played much, so you have to sort of filter everything through that the potential for giving his wages, etc., etc. The problem you've got, I think, Derek, listen, and I think Dwight Gale was a great player in the Championship. He's now 32. These guys, if they're on a decent long-term contract in the Premier League, you can end up looking at like 50, 60 grand for a player who's not necessarily a leading light, Now, I don't think the key players at Rangers earn that kind of money. So, you're going to bring in someone like Dwight Gale, who's coming towards the end of his career. I think that's like the Rangers of previous owners, basically, in terms of the kind of way they would operate. I don't think this board would be so keen on that kind of move. But when Dwight Gale was at his best, he was a bloody good player.
Yeah. Oh yeah. let's say when Newcastle were in the Championship and they were coming up, he was magnificent for them, and they led the line so well. I'd love him at Ibrox, to be honest. Ross comments in, I still fancy Kevin Nisbet too, maybe a slight risk after the injury, but reckon he could get 10 to 15 goals in the SPFL. He's another player, apparently that rumoured that Rangers wanted him last summer. 10 to 15 goals. Rangers need more, Johnny. Nisbet, for you, would you be quite happy to see him being paraded at Ibrox?
So I like Kevin Nisbet as a player. I think he's got quite a bit going for him. But my concern about him is twofold. Number one, once all the transfer speculation around him started to come around, within under a year of him arriving at Hibs, and he exploded, to be fair. Yeah. But once it started, I thought he went off the boil a bit, and he went off the boil for quite a bit of time, and he wasn't happy about the fact that the transfer bids from down south weren't accepted, and he made that quite clear. I'm always dubious about that sort of player at Rangers because, you know, it's just, if you're a striker at Rangers, there's going to be transfer interest if you do half decent. So I think that would be one you'd have to be careful of. And secondly, I think Hibs would want an amount of money that I don't think he's worth. Personally, I think you can get better value. For example, I think Kolak's a better player than Kevin Nisbet, I've got to be honest. I think he's got more to his game. I think he's more of a developed player. He's more of a finished article. And Kevin Nisbet's just come back off a serious injury. I totally agree with Ross that he could get 10 to 15 goals in the SPFL, no problem, because he's a good finisher. But whether or not you would want to spend 3.5 to 4 million, which is what Hibs are looking for Kevin Nisbet, well, they certainly were before his injury. Not for me at all.
Yeah, some other comments coming in. Cameron Warnock says, "Is the Eric Botheim deal died?" It's gone a bit quiet on that. Of course, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago where it was sort of big news, and there was lots of reports. We've obviously seen the picture with him in
the club. The club poo-pooed the idea that they were in for Eric Botheim, and that seems to be the situation going forward, Derek.
Yeah.
I suspect that his wage demands are going to be significant. He's available on a free. All these guys that are now on the market from Russia and Ukraine, very sadly because of what's going on, they are going to be able to pick up, you know, huge money because, you know, you look at someone like Jordan Larsson, who went to Spartak Moscow, a decent deal, and has done really well in Russian football. You know, for an English Premier League club to be able to pick him up, probably worth 10 to 15 million quid, pick him up for nothing. He's going to want big wages because that adds to his value, doesn't it? I mean, they sign him up on a 4-year deal, and immediately they've got that outlay on their balance sheet. So I think Botheim would be one of those type players who will probably command quite a decent salary from an elite league. I mean, I certainly think he would be a really, really brilliant signing for Rangers. Absolutely sensational. So, yeah.
Interesting comment came in. I'll try and find it now. So many comments coming in here, Johnny, but this one here, where is it now? It was regarding Amad Diallo and asking if there is, let's see, Blair gets in touch. Do we want Amad on another loan spell? Now, for me, he came onto a game near the end of the season. We all seen his debut at Ross County when he scored after 5 minutes. And then he sort of fell away. The Old Firm game at Parkhead was a bit of a disaster for him. It was a bit of a fish out of water. Tannadice, when he failed to cut the ball back, I think, for Sakala for a tap-in. A lot of fans had made up their mind by then, but he fought his way back, and he had a part to play come the end of the season. Played in the Cup final, of course, the Scottish Cup final. Would you like to see him brought back for another season?
Would I like to see it? That's a question. I'm not sure, Derek. I've got to be honest. Can I sit on the fence on this one? Like you, I was impressed with how he performed at the end of the season, but then there'll be people in the comments that will say, well, there was nothing at stake, and they're absolutely right. For the majority of the games that he played, obviously he played the Scottish Cup final, and there was plenty at stake in that one. But my worry is with Amad Diallo is always going to be his physicality. In Scottish football, people will target him and they will look to kick him out of the game because he's such a slight physical specimen. I just don't really think I'm convinced that he's the perfect fit for our game. Now, that might be wrong. He might come in and do really well. What I love about him is his ability to peel off at the back post and score. That's something that I don't think any other Rangers wingers have at the club at the moment. You saw that he scored a few goals in a very, very short amount of minutes. But ultimately, I think Gareth's right. He just feels a little bit too lightweight. Now, that's something you can overcome. It absolutely is. You can do more work on your upper body strength. It's not about size. It's more about physicality. It's one of those ones. If Rangers sign Amad Diallo, I totally understand why, and I feel like he could be a big success. But also, a part of me would be slightly concerned that it would be problematic in certain games, as we saw in Parkhead, where he was like a little boy lost. To be fair, though, when you're 18 and you're coming into that environment, or he may have been 19 at the time, I can't remember his exact age, but in your teens, going into that environment must be one hell of an experience when you're not used to it. The build-up, the atmosphere, the pressure, it would be significant. I mean, Derek, where do you fall on it, like, definitively?
Well, it's an interesting point. We're talking about the bulking up, but Aldo says he's been bulking up. Check his Instagram. Sonny Boy as well mentions that he's got the best sports scientists around him to bulk himself up, which is correct, of course. Man United and the Rangers have got the top drawer sports scientists. I'm torn on this one like you, Johnny. I'd quite like to see him given another crack at the whip at Ibrox and given a pre-season at Rangers and for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and Dave Voss, Roy Mackay to really work with him. There's certainly encouraging signs at the end of last season. He is still a young boy, but I know a lot of comments coming in saying that they don't want loans coming in and developing other teams' players, which I can understand. But he's got talent. I know everyone was talking about the transfer fee as well that Manchester United paid for him. He's clearly got something about him. But it's just if he's up to the physicality of the Scottish game is another question. But as we mentioned there, I think as he grows up as well, he'll fill out and he'll become more physical, you'd imagine. I'd take him. I have to say, I'd be quite happy if they brought him in on loan for a season again.
Yeah, Derek, I mean, the one thing about Amad Diallo that you just cannot deny is his just delivery. I mean, I'm just looking up as we speak. I'm trying to get down his player radar from StatsBomb because it's quite a remarkable level of performance. I'm not even kidding. It really showcases what he delivered. And, you know, it's easy to say, well, stats are one thing. What about the eye test, etc., etc.? But honestly, Diallo, he really, really does give you something that a kind of no other player has given in terms of his ability to deliver just absolute gold dust numbers.
Yeah,
He did deliver on that front. I'm just trying to get this up just now, but I'm struggling. If I can get it up, if I can get it sorted, then I'll put it up. But we've had it on the website a few times. His actual numbers, his data are fantastic, and they really back up a lot of the guys in the comments there who are saying they like Diallo. And if you're someone who likes Diallo, there's absolutely plenty of evidence to back up your case. There's no doubt about that. I know Josh is a big fan of the player and feels like he could bring quite a bit to the game. Listen, I'm just gonna share this. Can you see my screen there? Yes, you can. So I've got it. I finally kind of got it working. But here we go. I'm gonna pull it up. You can see the Rangers review there. So yeah, that's Amad Diallo's performance indicator there.
Yeah,
and the fuller that is, the more impressive a season that they're having. But that is extremely full on all the major areas that a winger would be successful in. You can see he doesn't win too many fouls and things like that, which is down here. But in terms of successful ball crosses, passing, touches in the box is really, really high. You know, Ryan Kent folds right back in at this point. Shots as well. He's obviously a guy who who's in the real top percentiles, and you can actually see the percentiles down this side. For XG, he's in the 100th percentile in the Scottish Premiership.
Yeah.
For shots, he's in the 98th. Touches in the box, 99. Passing, 99. Successful box crosses, 100. Successful dribbles, 96. XG per shot, 96. So he's a bit of a phenom when it comes to numbers, which is why these guys, go on and on about him in the data community. And so I think it's an interesting conversation worth having.
Yeah, bring him home is what I say.
You've changed your mind now. There's no more sitting on the fence.
That's sold it for me, Johnny. If you like those sort of illustrations, folks, that you can see a lot of that on the website. We go into the detail as we analyse each and every player and do scouting reports and what have you. So interesting stuff. It'll be interesting to see, if he is one that joins up again for next season. There is a lot of frustration, Johnny, of course, with perhaps the lack of transfer activity just now, but is what it is. What's Wallline 94 saying, coming late to this, watching it from the start. How tight is Johnny? 2.6 million for a striker. Let's go.
Can I just explain that, Derek? Just my point on that is it's not that I don't think, obviously 2.6 million for a striker is peanuts by today's standards, especially in elite leagues. But I suppose what I'm trying to get at is just because he's 28, it's quite a big investment for Rangers to put into someone where you're definitely not going to get that money back. So it needs to be a guy that's going to deliver on the pitch. It actually has to, because you're not going to be able to really certainly not that level of fee back for the player. Whereas if you're going to get a guy who's 21, 22, 23, even 24 at that price, well, they're going to have another sale in them easily to recoup that fee. So that's what I'm driving at. Yeah,
and listen, I think it'll be dependent as well if players head out the door. We touched on earlier rumours around Alfredo Morelos going into his final year of his deal as well. Johnny, Kemar Roofe is a player you can't necessarily rely on. There was a comment earlier with regards to Fashion Sakala, if we think that he'll have more of a role to play next season. Do you think so?
Well, listen, we've debated Sakala so much over the year, haven't we? We've probably got like 5 or 6 hours of just us talking about Fashion Sakala. and listen, I've got to admit, I've been a bit changeable. I'm up and down with the weather on him.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Ultimately, you just can't argue with his delivery, and his numbers are really good. And I know we've been talking about numbers with Diallo, but once again with Sakala, in terms of goals and assists, it's good. It's just that sometimes he's a bit erratic.
Yeah.
And you just got to hope, I think, this year, I definitely keep him around, 100% keep him around. And you just got to hope that this year, the other aspects of his game that need finessed are going to see development. And if they can, I'm sure he'll be a brilliant player for Rangers. And they certainly, lots of games, he can give you quite a bit in. So definitely someone I would want to keep around. But perhaps not someone I would see as a first-choice striker, Derek.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jury is still out for me on Fashion Sakala. Great impact player, but whether he can be trusted to lead the line on a consistent basis, remains to be seen. I think that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone, as ever, for interacting with the show. Another action-packed programme, so it's very much appreciated. Just a reminder, we've got that great offer on the website just now. If you sign up now, you get a free 30-day trial, full access to the website, just £2.99 per month thereafter. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. We'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest